looks like we're headed west. They were just eastbound on the 91 and got off of the freeway here, and so kind of headed back towards the Anaheim, Santa Ana area, blowing through that stoplight right there. I believe this is Anaheim PD. They had a couple of helicopters overhead. They had what they call Duke, which is Orange County Sheriff's helicopter. Then they also had Angel, Anaheim PD, and there seemed to be kind of some confusion. They were trying to get CHP involved in this, but you can see this is the police. I believe it's Anaheim PD that is dealing with this pursuit currently.
All right, this is Desmond Shaw. This is breaking news here on KCAL 9. We have a pursuit suspect wanted for stealing a Range Rover. This started in Anaheim, was northbound on the 5 for a time, then southbound on the 5, north on the 57, east on the 91, now on surface streets in Anaheim, going through stoplights. Of course, Susie, this is where it's most dangerous. He does not have his headlights on. He's driving at a moderate speed, but still these are surface streets at night. That's what makes this so dangerous. He's going through, of course, there's a green light, but he went through a couple red lights and stop signs and what have you, with 2 Anaheim police cruisers behind him.
And Desmond, did you say that they actually backed off for a moment and then re-engaged?
Yeah, actually, when we first heard about this, they had gone into tracking mode, so I'm wondering if the driving was particularly crazy at one point, and then they backed off. But you're seeing, pretty subdued, frankly, as far as pursuits go, as certainly the way that a lot of the pursuits have been going recently, where we've seen just the really crazy driving on the wrong side of the road and blasting along through red lights. We're not seeing that so far. So even though they're, not stopping for the police, we did see them go through one red light, rolling through that red to make a right there. Not seeing the real crazy stuff like we have been seeing recently.
I wonder if you could put your maps up there for us, just so we have an idea. We know this is on side streets in Anaheim, as we're taking a live look at here. Anaheim PD, 2 cruisers behind. At one point in time, we thought CHP was going to get involved and intercept this vehicle because it was on a number of freeways in the metro. But this is a Range Rover. The driver wanted for stealing this Range Rover. This looks like a newer model one, Susie, like almost it could be a brand new model. It's interesting, we were doing a report earlier today on the number of car thefts in LA County have certainly gone up, just about 14-15% over the previous year. So this is more of a common occurrence that we're seeing here on the roadways, as we have a stolen Range Rover, a driver behind the wheel being pursued by Anaheim PD.
Yeah, it's unclear how many people are actually inside this car. Is there someone else? Are there passengers inside this car? All we know it is stolen SUV, and we have no idea if they're armed or not, if this was some sort of carjacking maybe prior to, and maybe that's why they are in chase and not letting this one go. It's unclear right now. Desmond, where are we?
We are making our way into Fullerton. We're paralleling the 57, making our way northbound right now, maybe on State College Boulevard. I believe that's where we are at the moment. So rolling northbound. We're seeing speeds picking up a little bit. Anaheim PD, they were right behind them on the bumper there for a moment. It almost makes you wonder if they were considering a pit maneuver or something like that. But they did not try anything, and speed's still just a little bit too high. And frankly, not familiar if we would see a Dodge Charger, a sedan, try to do a pit maneuver on an SUV. I can see that potentially not going so well. Going underneath this tunnel right now that goes underneath the train tracks and coming back up. So we're getting into Fullerton, and you can see the spotlight still. I believe that is Duke that is overhead. That's Orange County Sheriff's deputies' helicopter. Actually, it might be Anaheim. They have both helicopters up there for quite some time. But you can see going through that light and now making a westbound turn. Westbound with Anaheim PD not far behind.
Well, we don't know for sure the circumstances behind this stolen vehicle, but one of the reasons why police could be backing off is, Susie, they might have a location device on this vehicle. It could be LoJack, and they could be trying to work to disable this vehicle, or maybe they have a device and they know, that they can track it in other means. So that could be a possibility, as we're seeing this driver here speeding up just a little bit in the stolen SUV, now entered Fullerton. As we continue to follow this latest pursuit in LA County of this driver wanted for stealing this Range Rover. I'm just wondering if that might be something that they're considering, is they've seen this. I'm sorry, it's Orange County as opposed to LA County. I stand corrected on that. But I just wonder if that might be what's going on here. But they could, of course, just be following this person. They might know who that person is. They might know the owner of the vehicle. There could be all kinds of circumstances.
They may have spoken with the owner of the vehicle by now. Getting to them and getting some information about what happened, that could certainly lead them to whatever they need in their investigation as they continue this pursuit. But it's unclear right now what's going on, because we have no idea how many people are inside this car, what the situation was when they stole the car. But we do know that at some point the Anaheim Police Department did back off just for a moment and went into tracking mode, which means that they're only using their helicopters overhead, which was provided by the Orange County Sheriff's Department and the Anaheim Police Department. Sometimes when the drivers go too fast or driving recklessly, they will back off, because the public's, we have to think about the public safety.
And thankfully we haven't really seen a whole lot of aggressive driving from this pursuit suspect, and that is strange. I'm not saying, I'm not condoning the moderate driving here. I encourage it, of course, but it's one of those things where typically when you see a situation like this, they try to escape and use drastic measures. This is somebody that appears to be pretty low-key, and they don't have their headlights on, which is odd, but otherwise no real danger surrounding this pursuit so far.
Desmond, we're still in Fullerton?
Yeah, so we were on westbound Commonwealth. We just made a northbound turn, so kind of headed towards the Brea area. I was kind of curious. I just widened out to see where the authorities were, and it kind of seemed like they backed off and even turned their lights off. So I wonder if they're kind of going back into tracking mode. Well, here you see another police here. This looks like Fullerton PD that is blocking off this intersection here just to make sure that no innocent people get involved. So we were on Lemon Street and now making another westbound turn. So just kind of zigzagging all over the place, not far away from where this began. This was in the Fullerton area around Fullerton Airport for quite some time. Making another westbound turn here, and the spotlight is gone now as well. Well, here's ground units, so it's kind of been a little bit of everything. We saw the spotlight come and go. We've seen the flashing lights come and go, making a turn now onto southbound Harbor Boulevard and back towards the 91 freeway.
If you're just joining us here on KCAL 9 News Today, this is breaking news. A pursuit of a stolen Range Rover in the city of Fullerton right now. This, we believe, it started in Anaheim with the stolen SUV. This is a Range Rover. It started on the northbound 5, got on the 91, back onto the southbound 5 again, northbound on the 57, eastbound on the 91, and then exited off the surface streets. We've been through State College Boulevard, Commonwealth, past Fullerton Airport, and into the Brea area now. And I believe they're making all kinds of turns. It's unclear where they're going, if they're headed in any specific direction. They stayed pretty much in the Fullerton and Anaheim area as far as we know. Again, a stolen car. We have no idea what happened before this actual pursuit took place. We don't know if there was some sort of carjacking or maybe just stolen off of a street. But we do know that different agencies are involved tonight, including the Orange County Sheriff's Department, Anaheim Police Department, and the Fullerton Police Department.
This driver has yet to make a left-hand turn. It's just made all these right-hand turns. You got to wonder if they even are trying to figure out what they're doing or where they are. It's almost like a NASCAR race. They just continue going around in a circle and circle and circle. And this is something that we've seen, on occasion when it comes to these pursuits. So maybe the driver doesn't know exactly how to drive the car. It's something that they stole, and they're trying to get familiar with it. I now see that they found the headlights, because the headlights are on now. Largely, this pursuit was following this driver without the headlights on, and that includes, highway speeds on those highways of the 5 and the 57 and the 91. But now we're on surface streets. It seems that the driver wanted for stealing this Range Rover. It looks like a newer model one. Has found the lights, and let's get back up to Des. Des, what's the latest with you?
Well, we're back on westbound Commonwealth, so kind of going back to where Fullerton Airport and that vicinity, pretty close to the 5 freeway. So we'll be on the edge of Buena Park shortly at the rate that we're going, pretty close to where we had first heard about this pursuit. But remember, it was Anaheim PD, so this may have started southbound or south of the 91. You can see the police are still back there. It looks like they do not have their lights on, but they have had the spotlight on from overhead, and you're watching them when they have the opportunity, maybe coordinating with Fullerton police, actually blocking those intersections just to make sure that no one innocent gets involved in this. If it wasn't for that, you wouldn't have any of these folks up here have probably no idea that they're only a few feet away from someone who's being pursued by police. Because this person is not driving in that maniacal fashion like we saw so dangerous, especially over the last couple of weeks. And this pursuit almost seemed like it got away from authorities, Jeff and Susie, earlier when we were hearing about it. They had their helicopter overhead, but they did not have their spotlight. There were no ground units behind this for quite some time when it got onto the southbound side of the 5. So it seems like Anaheim PD being maybe a little bit coy in this one, that maybe they don't want to get really aggressive in trying to stop this. It looked like for a moment like maybe they were considering a pit maneuver, but we didn't hear any talk about that, and they're just kind of hanging back and maybe just seeing how where this person's going to go. They don't want to try to agitate them.
In the past we've done this, Susan, the police actually knew where the driver was going. Maybe they've contacted family members and they're working with them to talk to this driver, and sometimes they get them to drive to that location and give themselves up. I don't know if that's the case here, but it just is one of those slower pursuits for sure.
Yeah, that's for sure. And with spike strips, with pit maneuvers, I mean, there's a lot that goes on into the actual process of even condoning or permitting something like that. It's got to be approved by a supervisor. And obviously, as Desmond was talking about, it looks like the Anaheim Police Department being a little less aggressive than we normally see in pursuits. And, you always have to remember that there are reasons for that. There are reasons why they're being a certain way or being careful or whatnot. For example, with spike strips, you got to know which way the suspect is going, which way he's coming, he or she is coming, traveling. Got to deploy the unit far ahead enough to get spike strip out and in an area where it's actually safe for the officers. So that's going to take a lot of planning as well ahead to do something like that. And I wonder if they're in the middle of doing that right now.
Yeah, now to Buena Park, we just saw as they cruised that major intersection there was a unit there holding traffic. Maybe they were going to try to do a stop stick there. I'm not sure, but they certainly are following, as you see to the right-hand part of your screen, 2 cruisers following this pursuit driver, wanted for stealing that Range Rover, although they are not lights and sirens, just kind of following at a distance at this time. When we first engaged with this pursuit, there were 2 units that were following closely behind with lights and sirens, and we had 2 choppers overhead as well, law enforcement choppers, that is. This is our chopper here as we take a look at this driver now coming to a full stop, which is somewhat unusual because he has gone through a couple red lights. It appears to want to go straight at this point in time, but I've seen him take a lot of right-hand turns. But now you see the 2 units standing back there a little bit, and this driver is deciding to go, well, another right-hand turn.
Yeah, and it really makes you wonder why they're not being aggressive with it, or why this person is not driving like, not that we want them to drive recklessly and dangerously, but, what their motive is right now and what their plans are, to get away from police. Usually we see them getting away at a high rate of speed.
Right.
At least they're trying to do so, right?
Yeah.
But in this case, driving very calm, and that's what we've been seeing pretty much throughout this entire pursuit.
I mean, police may have information that there's a child in the car for all that we know, and that could be a case. We've done that in the past, and of course, that is something that they have to do completely different, knowing something like that. I'm not saying that is the case here, but there is certainly a different approach to this pursuit than what we've seen in the past. This is Anaheim Police that's following. They have their own protocols. They have their own policies. As we're coming up on a little bit of traffic, we can see if this driver takes to the right and again takes another right-hand turn, which he or she has done many times. I really lost count, but I haven't seen anything but right-hand turns from this driver. Let's go back up to Desmond Shaw in Sky 9 with the very latest. Des, we got 2 units behind. I saw another unit intersection. You see any other police activity?
No, these are the only 2, it looks like, at the moment, Jeff. This might be an undercover. Actually, as I widen out, there are a few. You've got 4 there. One that looks like an unmarked vehicle, northbound on Gilbert, and let's see if we continue rolling northbound. So on the edge of Orange County and LA County, making our way towards La Mirada and La Habra up to the Whittier foothills, northbound on Gilbert. And it's certainly not like this suspect has not had the opportunity to drive fast if that was going to be their MO, to try to get away from the police. Pretty light traffic out here. You can see the speed limit on the street is 50 miles an hour. They're not even going that fast right now, maybe up to 40. So it's certainly not a matter of not being able to, just really, kind of an aimless strategy, maybe just trying to run out the clock for a little bit before they pull over and give up. I mean, they're even using turn signals right now. We haven't seen one of these subdued pursuits in quite some time. It's kind of been this, white knuckle holding our breath, blasting through red lights that we've been, unfortunately accustomed to seeing lately. And this one, it's hard to even know that it's a pursuit, frankly.
I mean, I don't want to make light of it, but maybe with gas prices, they're trying to conserve gas. They're going slow. I doubt it, but I had to throw that in
takes
there.
Premium.
I mean, we have record gas prices here in Los Angeles. So
that's true. And you wonder how much gas they started out with, right? During the pursuit, how much gas was inside this tank to start off with? Because oftentimes they'll run out of gas, and hopefully that is the case. Hopefully that's what will make them stop. Hopefully nothing dangerous to the public happens, and that's what they're always hoping. And you wonder why the Anaheim Police Department is giving so much space between this person and themselves, when usually they're a little, closer to them in hot pursuit usually, especially when the car is driving faster, obviously. But as we see, just a slow pursuit tonight.
Well, they certainly have a lot of backup. We counted, I think, 4 cruisers behind this Range Rover. The driver wanted for stealing that Range Rover out of Anaheim, and we're back into the La Mirada area now. As we approach another intersection, let's see if they take a right-hand turn. The last one, they went through the intersection. But following the traffic laws and coming to a complete stop here, you see the number of police cars that are piling up behind this pursuit vehicle, as this is a pretty slow chase. Although he's
way behind them.
Way behind them, yeah. Although they're inching up on that pursuit driver as he goes through the crosswalk and kind of cruises through. But this is one of those situations where right-hand turn, Susie. This is seems like the only turn that this driver can take is a right-hand turn.
Yeah, it doesn't. So we're in La Mirada now.
Yeah, but we just made another eastbound turn from northbound Gilbert, so just kind of, circling around this area, and you have to wonder if this is where the person is from or where, this vehicle may have been stolen. And the way this pursuit is going, it really seems like the perfect opportunity if they want to have Fullerton PD, or if there's enough Anaheim PD units in the area that they could get out with the spike strips, because then, making right-hand turns and just kind of sticking in one lane, not zigging and zagging around very much, and with the slow speeds gives you, so the slow speeds give you a lot of opportunity to, use those if they wanted. We're on Rosecrans headed eastbound right now, and coming up to another stoplight, so we saw them going through a couple of those stop signs and stoplights earlier, but not the case now. It seems to be obeying every single law except the most important one in this instance, which is to stop for the police.
Yeah, maybe they think police are just going to give up if they follow the rules.
Sure.
But probably not. Let's, if you get a chance, Des, I would love to have you kind of zoom in on one of those cruisers behind there. I thought I caught a K9, which would make a lot of sense. A lot of times they bring in the K9 unit. If that pursuit suspect decides to bail, they can use the dog to track him. Of course, if there was a situation where they wanted to try to get that driver to succumb to their demands, K9 could be very persuasive. I just wonder if that might be the situation tonight. Take it.
Yeah, I saw the K, but then it says K2 and K4, so I'm guessing those are just, unit numbers. Sure. Yeah, I didn't see K9 on any of those, but definitely a common tactic. There's I would almost say at least half the pursuits when they end, if they end with the suspect pulling over, or even if they end with the suspect crashing, but when the pursuit ends, you see the officer with the canine get right out there and be ready for anything. So it would be a very common tactic. I haven't heard any chatter about having a canine unit involved at this point, but giving a pretty wide berth here to this vehicle as we are still in Fullerton. I think we're kind of learning how large the municipality of Fullerton is. This person has pretty much tagged all 4 corners of Fullerton now as they make yet another right-hand turn away from Rosecrans and headed towards the 91.
Yeah, so this is almost what we call a tracking mode.
Yes.
The airship will take over the broadcast of where the car is. It will be calling out all the right turns and left turns that they're making to everyone on their radios. The black and whites actually will back off then and shut off their emergency equipment, as you've seen here. So their presence obviously is a little less noticeable and not, putting so much pressure on the driver himself. But this is usually when they're driving fast or recklessly. They don't want to keep putting pressure on that person to drive like that. And so that's why they'll back off. But it's unclear right now why they're doing so in this situation, Jeff.
It's a very expensive vehicle. This appears to be a late model Range Rover. Could be a Land Rover, and that would be six figures if it's something that was within the last couple of years. It could easily be an over $100,000 vehicle that was stolen here as we continue to follow this pursuit of a stolen Range Rover. The driver by Anaheim police. We have 4 units at least that we can count behind this driver. Started in Anaheim, wanted of course for stealing that Range Rover. Got on the northbound 5, the southbound 5. We're on the 57, east on the 91 through Anaheim, Fullerton, La Mirada, back into Fullerton. And we've just been kind of following this. I don't want to call it a slow speed chase because we've certainly seen slower speed, Susie.
Sure.
But this is maybe moderate and just kind of the speed limit, maybe even a little bit below that, and then also following the traffic laws and obeying
all the traffic laws.
At least since we joined in, there was a couple times where they ran through some red lights, but now with those police officers turning off their lights and sirens, kind of had a chilling effect on this driver. It seemed to kind of put this driver into a mode of, that's one of those roundabouts, but in the mode of actually following the rules.
Yeah, it's true. Desmond, are you seeing the same amount of units behind this person? Still 2?
Well, they gave a ton of space to this person. Yeah, way back there. We were just on eastbound Valencia Mesa, but now making another right-hand turn down on a major. Now there you see one of the police helicopters overhead. I believe that was Angel. And they've actually kept both of their helicopters on this one. Kind of interesting when you consider, they don't even have the spotlight on this one. I think they're probably, technically in tracking mode right now, but if they may be using infrared on this pursuit, quite possibly, but keeping both helicopters.
Oh, might have lost Des there real quick. Stolen Range Rover pursuit still goes on. We'll get back to the signal, and it appears we have something going on with the camera there. Here we go. Oh, it's starting to pixelate and break up a little bit, Susie. But
what's really sticking out to me is just what's happening right now with the police officers. As we're talking about, when we're in tracking mode, when we see this in, with the LAPD, they're usually in the tracking mode and they'll put the airship overhead. But it's also because the person is driving so recklessly. Again, we're not seeing that tonight in this situation. Yet, as Desmond was talking about, huge berth between the suspect and the police officers.
I just wonder if they have a lot of information that they know about this driver, and they know where this driver lives. Maybe they've been in contact with the owner of this vehicle. It was a stolen vehicle. It may have been from a dealership or a car lot, and then maybe they have a tracking device on the vehicle. We're not quite certain. Just trying to guess as to why the drivers actually relaxed and seem to be driving, within the laws and the traffic speed limits and whatnot. You see there 35 is the speed limit. As you saw on the pavement there, and this driver appears to be going about that. So Des, we had some technical problems with him. It looks like we got your back. We saw some people there who were starting to hit a more populated area, it appears to me, right?
We're southbound on Harbor, headed back towards the 91 freeway. We're going to get another really ugly camera maneuver here, guys, and I apologize whenever the suspect goes directly underneath us right now. And of course, we're coordinating with law enforcement. Our camera does not like when we do that, so had to make an adjustment. But here we are, and you don't have any ground units back here for quite a while. The helicopters are still tracking this vehicle, but as we turn from Harbor now, once again now making an eastbound turn, but just going to widen out, and I'm starting to wonder if they're just going to track this one from the air completely. Now, they had already done that earlier in the pursuit, and then they were asking CHP to get involved, and then we never saw CHP get involved, and then Anaheim re-engaged, and it looks like they've completely disengaged. Their helicopters are still overhead, but no spotlight and no ground units, so we'll see what they do with this. Maybe they're trying to lull the driver into a false sense of victory on this one, and just keep an eye on them and have units kind of nearby but out of sight. Perhaps that is the strategy here, and nab the driver once they come to a stop, but about as docile as they come as far as pursuits and tracking mode goes.
Yeah, we've seen this before where they seemingly back off, but they are in the area. And we've seen this before if they decide that it's time for them to bail. They get there pretty quickly, those police officers do.
It's true, yeah. As I said, the airships are, giving out all the directions of where this person is going, obviously. And so, while they're in that tracking mode, officers are standing by, nearby, not too far away, as Jeff was just talking about, whether it be the Anaheim Police Department or the Fullerton Police Department. They're working hand in hand right now to coordinate their efforts right now, as we know. But as we've been talking about throughout this entire hour, pretty much, of this pursuit, that it has been one that's been very uneventful compared to most of the pursuits that we cover, which is a good thing. And also that they've been driving, at fairly speed limit, as we can see here.
Yeah. Maybe this driver's just resigned to the fact that that they're going to get caught. That we've seen that before. They can just kind of slow down and behave, or they think that they've gotten away with it and they don't want to, take off in a bolt of lightning and then have those officers re-engage. Sometimes they can kind of feel lulled in the situation where they backed off, but we don't see any sort of aggressive driving from this driver at all. I mean, we've been here for most of the hour here. We've just seen basically right-hand turns and kind of, maybe once or twice going from the left lane all the way into the right-hand lane to make that right-hand turn. A couple of stoplights they've gone through a red. There was one stop sign I saw that they went through, but really just kind of blending into traffic, going slower than actually the posted speed limit says. I see a lot of drivers that pass it. So this person is either just trying to figure out what they're going to do, or maybe police have been in contact with them. Maybe they know the vehicle because it's been stolen. Maybe there's a locating device in the vehicle and they're going to be able to pick it up at some point in time. There's all kinds of scenarios that could be playing out here.
It's true. And as far as we know, we don't know exactly what that scenario is, but we do know that this all started in Anaheim as a stolen SUV, a Range Rover. We don't know how many people are inside this car right now. Are there any passengers? Is this suspect armed? Are passengers inside the car armed? Did police maybe get word of that perhaps they were armed, and maybe that's why they backed off, or maybe that's why they were keeping such a big distance between them? It's unclear right now, but we do know that the airships are still overhead between the Orange County Sheriff's Department and the Anaheim Police Department, and our Desmond Shaw live in Sky 9. Desmond, give us an update.
Yeah, we were just eastbound on Chapman now as we get ready to make a turn here, leave onto northbound State College. And this allegedly stolen Range Rover Sport, maybe, thinking that they got away with this. The helicopters are still overhead. They don't have their spotlights on. And, even if you have the driver trying to peek through the sunroof up above them, I'm not sure that they would be able to see that there are helicopters overhead. So it's kind of hard to say what they're even doing with this. It may just be that the helicopters want to see where this ends, maybe get an address if possible, and then give that information, over to Fullerton PD, since it'll be in their jurisdiction, maybe apprehend them at a later time. They're obviously taking a much more different tact with this one. I'm guessing that this vehicle was not stolen by violent means, or they most likely would not be treating it in this way. This could just be essentially property crime. I mean, there's so many ways that a car could be stolen. I mean, this could have been stolen off of a dealer lot. We just had a story that I know I was reading about on CBSLA.com about someone who wrote a couple of bad checks and was able to drive off a $100,000 Lexus and hide it in their garage. So there's any multitude of ways that a vehicle can be reported stolen. And as we continue here,
looked like they thought they were going to take a right-hand turn but went straight. Okay, Des, I'm going to have to interrupt you here real quick. This is KCAL 9 News at 9 o'clock. We will continue to follow this latest pursuit of a driver wanted for a stolen vehicle and pass this off to Pat Harvey and Leslie Marine for KCAL 9 News at 9.
All right, thank you so much, Jeff and Susie. And yes, this is breaking news right now on KCAL 9 News, and we are streaming on CBS News Los Angeles. Jeff mentioned Anaheim police have been in pursuit of a stolen SUV, and Leslie, right now, I don't know, it looks like they could be in tracking mode.
Yeah, and right now it does look like Desmond Shaw is in Sky 9. But Desmond, it looks like this might be the first time we've seen this stolen Range Rover get on the freeway here. Is this a freeway?
Jeff and Susie, I apologize. Yes, we just got on the northbound 57 at Chapman, but right as soon as we were getting on the freeway, they are now getting back off of the freeway. So still in Orange County, and still seeing this. Frankly, kind of tracking. I mean, I don't even think we could call it a pursuit at this moment. You see, there's no spotlight, even though there continue to be the helicopters overhead, but no ground units for at least a half mile, if even that. So now, kind of on the border of Fullerton, Placentia, and the city of Brea as this continues on surface streets.
Okay, well, Desmond, it's Pat and Leslie here in the studio now for KCAL 9 News at 9 o'clock. And you know something? We're talking about this being purportedly a stolen vehicle. Don't quite know the circumstances around that, if it was stolen from an individual, stolen off a car lot. But for most of the night, it appears that the driver made a few questionable moves there, maybe running a red light. But for the most part, they've been driving, quote, responsibly. But they've also been on a number of freeways as well. Is that right? I mean, I believe this started in Anaheim because Anaheim PD is the lead on this case, or on this chase?
Yes. Yeah, Pat and Leslie, I apologize. I was having some communication issues there. But yeah, so we're on Yorba Linda Boulevard right now, and we saw a couple of dangerous maneuvers. Definitely going through a couple of red lights. Never saw anything like, driving on the wrong side of the road or anything particularly crazy. Certainly nothing like what seems to be, the case increasingly lately, where people are just throwing the dice, and gambling with their lives, driving 70 miles an hour on the wrong side of the street. This has been the complete opposite of that. I mean, you even see a turn signal being used at this point, and then looking like they were going to make that left, and then now decided to go back out into lanes and even use their turn signal for that. So this is definitely one of the most subdued pursuits we've seen. But again, not even a pursuit now at this point. It's tracking mode, an allegedly stolen vehicle with Orange County authorities overhead. They had ground units for quite some time, but they are no longer anywhere near this, Pat, Leslie.
When they go into this tracking mode, it's mostly because authorities and investigators, they have maybe some information that they can catch up to this driver some other time. We don't know what kind of Range Rover this is, but if it's a newer model, it could have some sort of tracking device on it. They'll be able to find it at a later time. But as you said, Des, there are no units behind this vehicle that are currently pursuing it, and they may have made that decision because they think it's safer for the public if they're not pursuing this vehicle through these busy streets, and that they could possibly find this driver by some other means. But as you said, they're tracking it with the helicopter.
And Desmond, they've been traveling in a familiar area, and when I say that, because they have stayed in Orange County, it appears. I mean, from Anaheim to Fullerton, La Mirada, and now apparently back in Fullerton on several freeways at one point. I mean, the northbound 5, 91, southbound 5, northbound 57. But for the last, I would say at least 15 minutes or so, would you say, Des, that they have been on surface streets? And I don't know if I would say they're in a pattern, but they seem to be in the same area.
Yes, definitely have been in the same area. The furthest south that this went was Santa Ana down by the Orange Crush, and then exited the freeway, made their way towards the North 57, and then came back to where this kind of all started in the Fullerton area, and we crossed all four corners of Fullerton, and then we were just kind of in Placentia and headed back south now as we're east of the 91, maybe on Placentia Avenue, and headed back kind of towards the freeway here, but there's down to just one helicopter now as well. I believe it's just going to be Angel, Anaheim PD, that continues to be over this. You do see a ground unit right there. It might just be a coincidence. They're obviously still calling out. So it's actually Duke. It's Orange County Sheriff's Deputy's helicopter that is overhead. They're sharing the information with all of the agencies, so it's not like anyone is in the dark about this. And maybe just trying to decide if they want to continue doing this. This might just be one of these ones that they decide to get later.
And you know, we've seen this before too, where they stop and maybe try to do a foot bail, and the law enforcement shows up out of nowhere and they take the suspect into custody. So I tell you what, Desmond, we know you're going to keep your eye on this, and we will get back to this as